Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Glue Guys podcast, episode 31. Some might call it the Ederson episode, um, but I don't really associate myself with that quality of goalkeeping. So today we have obviously an episode with a little bit of a break in between the last time. They went on international break. We decided we'd go on international break as well. We didn't want to bore you guys with an episode without any really good topics, so we're going to come with a really good quality episode today. And actually, for our intro topic today, my co-host Chad is going to be taking it over. So, Chad, why don't you reintroduce yourself and then get us going with that intro topic?
Yeah, guys, really happy to be back. Obviously, we took a week off, as Ethan said. We've made the determination, with or without announcing it, that this is basically just a soccer podcast that occasionally touches on other subjects. So it just made sense for us. It made sense. Feeling good today, though. Recording this on Sunday morning, March 30th, right before some big FA Cup ties. I know we've got Bournemouth and City, and then Aston Villa and Preston North End. So
I think they're playing right
interesting to
now.
see. I think so as well. Interesting to see what that final four will end up looking like, but that'll come up later. Starting off, as he said, gonna do quick little five hitter, just kind of a 5 pack of questions. I know can't say 6 pack since it's only five, but I said it anyway. Of questions just to kind of open the floor up before we kind of get into our main topic. Um, Number one, starting with the soccer theme, of course. What do you feel? Are you happy with the experience, the watching experience of international football at this level? Because we just came off an international break, had a bunch of Nations League ties, had a bunch of CONCACAF Nations League ties, a bunch of CONMEBOL qualifiers, I believe it was, African qualifier or AFCON qualifiers as well. And to me, there was just not ability to watch a lot of those games. So I want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, it is pretty frustrating. I mean, when you have to download apps to watch or like have to have app subscriptions for like real games. Like if you were like friendlies and I can't watch like Georgia versus Germany, it's like, all
Yeah.
right, I see, whatever. But then it's like when you have to download, you have to get ESPN Plus or this, then like there's one game maybe on ESPN, and I don't even think the CONCACAF games were on CBS. I just think they were on Paramount. So
Wow.
it's just it's frustrating, especially when we've come so far. It's kind of like back in the day, you couldn't get too upset about it because it was like there was
Yeah.
literally nothing. So it was
Yeah.
like we don't get to watch soccer at any time. So why would we get to watch it now? But now with our robust sort of relationships with like La Liga and the Bundesliga and the Premier League, especially, it's just kind of like more frustrating than anything. I mean, for me personally, it doesn't really apply as much because I have
Mhm.
ESPN and I have Paramount. But for them not to be able to get on TV at all, especially when it's a time of like relative slow sports. Like
Yeah.
baseball hadn't even started yet.
Yeah.
Basketball is kind of in a weird period,
Dog
or
day.
like
Dog day.
NBA, kind of no one cares yet until the
Mhm.
playoffs. Um, Hockey is not shouldn't really be a direct competition, and also the timing of these games should make it a much easier viewing experience. Like
Right.
these games are
Right.
happening at like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon for us.
Yeah.
That's not
There's no
competing with the
competition
NBA.
for anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, especially for like either younger people or people with, I guess, no job, with stuff with nothing to do in the middle of the day during the week. Like, I don't understand how we can't get the rights to that stuff. But that also might be the reason that we don't have the rights to that stuff because it's like, why would I pay all this money to get these games with 12:45 kickoff if everyone paying that would potentially pay for it or watch it is going to be at work or at school.
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I mean, I think in the Nations League aspect, it at least like, and I get it, depending on how old you are, you're either going to say the Nations League is stupid and the worst thing of all time, or you think it's good. I actually think it's cool because it took games that were absolutely meaningless and gave them slightly more meaning. And as you can see, like the teams have cared. Like teams have
Hmm.
put out good lineups. They've put out their best players in this competition. So But I just think I agree with what you're saying, but I think we've seen with, and not to compare it to the Champions League at all, but even if you're talking about like a Euros or something like that, like there are games on during the week. I know summer, so it's slightly different for some people, but for the most part, most adults are working 12-month jobs, so they're still in, they're still in working season, and those games still draw a good number. So I see
Yeah.
the point, but I don't know. I just would like to see more of a push. Like I watched a bunch of AFCON qualifiers because they were on ESPN Plus.
Yep.
Like no other reason at all besides just the one that were
Availability.
most accessible. Yeah, exactly. So credit to them on that one.
And you can start
Nigeria,
calling it, by the way, the Nations Carabao Cup League if you want to, because
yeah.
it's just the Nations League. It's just that, wait, my team's in the semifinal? Oh, yeah, the competition's huge. That's what it is. Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ronaldo won it? Oh, who doesn't have an international trophy? That's what it
I'm
basically turns into.
I'm team. I'm always gonna plant my flag on it matters. So
Oh
I'm
yeah, it
gonna.
definitely does, and I agree that the
Uh,
Carabao Cup matters. But like in the context of many people,
yeah.
it's like, oh, it's just the Carabao Cup until it's not just the Carabao Cup.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the Carabao Cup until it's the final, exactly like
Until
the league
until
said.
Newcastle wins it, and then it's like, huh, Newcastle's winning trophies and Arsenal can't. Cool. All right,
Yeah.
so let's
By
move
the
on
way,
to go
I
on.
did see a nice tweet where it was like Glasner's 2 games away from equaling Arteta's trophy cabinet.
I
So
saw that same
that was
tweet.
funny. That was pretty funny. Next topic, number 2. You talked about, you kind of hit on it earlier. Nobody cares about the NBA right now. We're in the dog days until we get to the playoffs. Cavs really don't care about it because since the last time we recorded and you
They've
bragged
lost
about
every
that
single
winning
game.
streak, they have. They are 3-5 in their last 8. Mobley missed some games. Mitchell missed some games. So not sitting there acting like they were full strength in all of those games. But how are you feeling going into the last handful of games and then going into the playoffs with a team that's been really good all year long? Just had a really bad hiccup last couple of weeks.
I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling confident because I think historically people kind of underrate this time. This is kind of what happens a lot of times. Is a lot of teams kind of look
Yeah.
around and they're kind of like,
Yeah.
we're going to be either the number 1 seed or one of the top 2 seeds. I mean, the teams that was probably most infamous for this were the Heat because the East was so bad at that time that they were just
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, once it's April, they were more like, April 1st, our big guys are just done playing with any type of
Yeah.
consistency. So
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
already wrapped up one of the top 2 seeds. We're not even going to have to play a game 7. Doesn't matter. Let's just make sure that we get into the playoffs without any injuries or anything like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
not saying that the Cavs have adopted maybe that level of not caring, but even if you still look at the standings, they're still number 1 in the East with a
Mm-hmm.
decent cushion
Yeah.
too between them and the Celtics. And I
Yeah.
think they're kind of looking at it more rationally, saying we're not going to set any wins records. We're not going to, anything like that. So let's just make sure that we're good for the playoffs. And they have played poorly. We have played poorly. There's no doubt about that. But I think it's maybe not going out of your way to say we're not trying as hard as we can, but that
Mm-hmm.
extra gear like isn't kicked into. I mean, if you played sports before, you kind of know when you're just playing versus when you know that something else is on the line, and you kind of see that extra level of getting locked in, extra level. Like if you ever played even like a championship game of like a basketball, like an AAU tournament, you can clearly tell like everyone kind of is a little bit more aware and a little bit extra
Right.
gear and a little bit more on their toes, and we just aren't that right now because quite frankly, there's not really a big reason to. We're almost guaranteed the 1 seed, regardless of what we are like for the next month. So why try to risk a whole bunch of injuries going into the playoffs?
I'm with that. I pretty much agree with it. When you have 2 win streaks, 15 plus games of the season, you kind of know what you can be when you put it all together. And like you said, we're in that end of the season push right there. So I'm still optimistic about Cleveland too. I still think they have a legitimate chance to win the title. Okay, sticking with the basketball theme. Did you have something else on that? I saw you were
Well,
about
it
to
was
say
just
something.
that, closing in on 60 wins. And also, I was going to say, I always have kind of thought that the Celtics are still the favorites. That's not even me being like, oh, well, put the pressure
Yeah,
on some other team, but like they literally are the returning title, like they're the defending champs. So for
yeah,
them not to
exactly.
have the target on their back is sort of wouldn't make any
Right.
sense. And so I think we as the Cavs are kind of still thinking like, all right, let's make sure everything is in place so that we have the best possible chance at the Celtics. And me as a Cavs fan, if we go out like in 6 or 7 to the Celtics, I'll be pissed because I hate the Celtics. But it's just kind of like if you would again, my favorite theory, if
Yeah,
you would have asked me on day one of the season, hey, would you take losing in 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals and after being the 1 seed? I'd be like, yeah, 100 times out of 100, I would take that for this season.
absolutely. Absolutely agree. Sticking with the NBA, quick game for you. I don't even know. Oh, I was on Facebook and saw that Harrison Barnes has somehow I follow a page that's Harrison Barnes on Facebook, and he has like a guy who posts like a picture of him with his game log after every game because it was like 10-2-2. And I was like, wait, there's no way in hell like the NBA or something like that posted this. So I clicked on the page and it had one for like every game this season. Anyway, led me down a rabbit hole where I was thinking, how much money do you have to make if you're Harrison Barnes to pay a guy to legitimately his only purpose is to post these pictures, or be like Harrison Barnes' social media guy, a guy who's never been an All Star, a guy who's never been a face of a franchise, no one's ever been waiting in line to interview him. How much money has Harrison Barnes made in his career through the 25 so through next season?
I know he signed that big extension, um,
Yeah,
like a long time ago. I mean, that was like 10 years
that's
ago.
one
But
word. That's one word for it.
how much money has he? 320 million.
Okay, I'm 242. 242.
The only
So,
reason I said 320 was because I the past couple years, like if you're like the worst role guy on a team, you're making like 10. So I was just
yeah.
thinking, like, even if he has like that for the past 3 years, before that he was better than the worst role guy. So he might have been making like
20.
30 at some point.
Yeah.
Because like you look at some contracts and it's like, wait, the fourth best player on this team is making $25 million a year. Okay,
Hmm.
so
That was him in Dallas. That was him in Dallas when he signed 4 for 94 with them after
yeah,
leaving Golden State. So,
yeah, but 240. I mean, that's like Shaq.
yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And those guys are not in the same category. Two other guys for you, real quickly, because then it led me down a rabbit hole just of NBA players. Mike Conley Jr., one All Star game to his name.
I mean, he's been in the league for 300 years, so I would say a similar number. I'd say like 260.
He's 296 through next year.
Jesus, through
So
next year,
again,
like including next year.
yeah, he's got 10.7 million guaranteed next year somehow, even though he's terrible. Although he's been okay the last month, which has coincided with the Wolves looking pretty good. And then the last guy, everyone's favorite player when it comes to this category, Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, yeah,
Through next season, how much guaranteed money will he have?
320.
302. You were right there.
Shit.
So those three guys, I mean, we're looking at about 850 million, 840 million between the three of them in one All-Star appearance. So I just want to salute those guys. You know, we always joke about Jalen Rose talking about the KGDC All Stars, the keep getting them checks guys. Those three deserve to be in the keep getting them checks Hall of Fame for sure.
Okay, well, I have a question for you as somebody who
Mm.
doesn't pay as much attention. Like, what occurred in like the 2015, I guess, range where something happened where someone was like, yeah, Tobias Harris to this contract, and then we're going to give him a bigger deal when he's up in 2019. Like, what was the evidence for it? Because right now I'm looking at it in 2018-19, right before he signs the extension.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
is, even if you just count his Philly numbers,
Yeah, it's probably
He's
like 14-7.
he's 18-8,
Uh,
which is cool. But
yeah,
I don't
but
know
it's
how
not a
18 and
max.
8 means that I'm then going to sign this guy to
5 years, 200.
yeah.
So, all right, this is exactly. I'll give you the full math. 2015, perfect time to be a free agent.
Yeah, that was the
Whole bunch
golden
of
era right there.
Exactly. A whole bunch of new money's coming in the league. Cap is going up, so people are just signing guys. So that's how he gets that contract from
Well,
2015 to 20.
that was the Wizard summer.
Yep, that was Jan. That was the summer of Jan. 4 for 64. I tell you, as soon as I saw it across the ticker, I knew it was horrible. You'll never see any evidence of me saying otherwise. The then he goes, ends up on the Clippers. Clippers trade him to Clippers. Ends up on the Clippers. Clippers just determine they're not going to re-sign him. So they're like, all right, this guy's open for a trade. Somehow Philly gives up like 2 unprotected first round picks, or 2 mildly protected first round picks for him, and like some real salary filler in real players. Like the Clippers end up making the playoffs that year. And then Philly's like, well, shit, we just traded a whole bunch of stuff for him, so we kind of got to keep him. And plus, around the same time, this is when Jimmy Butler's getting pissed off that Simmons, I think it's Simmons directed mostly, that Simmons isn't mentally tough enough, or Simmons isn't this or that, which, look, hey, maybe in the long run, we got to give Jimmy Butler some credit retroactively. So then Butler's gone, so then the Sixers are even more desperate to be like, shit, we got to keep Harrison, and they end up paying him the most money he was eligible for.
I think that might be the number one lesson that I've learned in like obviously I've never been a GM, but like in GMing for sports is
Mm-hmm.
like the worst possible decisions are made when you look around and go,
Desperate.
well, we
Desperate.
have to pay
Yeah,
X.
100%.
That's like how you get the Trevor Lawrence contract. That's how you get
Yeah.
the Tobias Harris contract. That's where you get like so many extensions that are like, well, he is our best guy, so I guess we
Yeah.
have to give Zach Levine 5 years, 250 million. I guess
Yep.
just because we
Yep.
have it,
Exactly.
we just have to give
Gotta
it to somebody. So we got to
gotta
give it
give
to him.
gotta give Bradley Beal the supermax with a no trade clause. Got to.
Hey,
Uh,
listener, there's two people in the NBA with a no trade clause: Bradley Beal and who's the other one? Just guess. Do you know who it is?
yeah, of course.
Chad, why don't you tell the people?
King James, Goat
So those
James.
are the two most people with the most power
Influential
in the
big. Yeah,
NBA.
exactly.
Is
Literally.
literally Bradley Beal and LeBron. So think of that what you will when it comes to desperation in the NBA. When it's like, and like
Yep.
the Bradley Beal thing, I actually get 2% because it's like when you're the Wizards or a franchise like the Wizards, like if LaMelo Ball were to take the horn, I mean, which he never will because you have to actually make the playoffs in order to do this. But if you were to take like the Hornets to Game 7 in the second round, it's like, well, this is the greatest moment of my life as a Hornets fan. So here's your reward for that. Because that's what happened with Bradley Beal, where he's like, they were literally a shot or
Yep.
two or Kelly Olynyk normal performance away from literally making the Eastern Conference Finals in 17. I don't know that how that projects to an extension about 5 years later, but at least you can point to that as like some evidence of like, you know what, this guy's brought us some joy, so here's your reward for that.
Can't argue. Can't argue. Can't argue it. So I'm just glad he's not on our team, my team anymore. All right, last two quick hitters for you, and then we'll get on to the main topic. Wonder Kid of the Year. I've got this is outside of the Premier League because I know you're wearing the Arsenal hat, so I know if I didn't say Lewis Skelly, who did get a nice goal on his England debut, I would have gotten ran out of town. Two attackers, 19 years old, both of them, I believe. First breakthrough season. Which one is more impressive to you? Desiri Doué, 9 goals, 11 assists in 2,100 minutes, all competitions. Or a guy who, for some reason, I just rank way higher than his numbers. Kenan Ildes, 7 goals, 4 assists, and 2,800 minutes in all comps.
Definitely Desiree Douay, 100%.
Even
He
though he's playing in the 12th best league in the world.
don't care.
Okay.
And the reason I don't care
Mm-hmm.
is the one thing that Ligue 1 has consistently produced is
Mm-hmm.
good attackers. Maybe not even great, but they've consistently produced good attackers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and plus what he's doing in that PSG team in the Champions League. He's by no means like, oh, the reason that they're in the quarterfinal is because of Desiree Douay or anything like that. But you can clearly tell that he's like a actual contributing member of it. It's not a situation where it's like Endrick and Real Madrid, where it's like, well, Real Madrid are really good and Endrick's in the team, so that means he's really
Yeah.
good. No, it's like
Yeah.
Desiree Douay is coming on as a game changer in these big games, and he's starting. Obviously a decent amount in the league. Would you say his numbers were 9 and 11?
Yeah, 9 and 11 in 2,100 minutes.
Yeah, and that's about one every 110 minutes or so, like 105 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And again, it's not even all about goal contributions with him, especially because he's a great. I really like how he is in like not build up, but like in interplay, where he's a good dribbler, but also he combines well with other players. A lot of those like Ligue 1 wingers, I guess you'd say, are more like
Mm-hmm.
individualists. You think of like your Alan St. Maximens, you think of like Jeremy Doku, guys like that, where it's like just give him the ball, he's gonna get around a guy and maybe like whip it across or something. But yeah, he's gonna stand like this over the ball and do this, and then run by someone. Apparently, that makes you good if you're Jeremy Doku. But like Desiree Douay actually likes to beat his man coming inside, no diddy, and then actually combining with a forward or a midfielder.
Yeah.
That's the part I really, really enjoy about his game, and what I think is going to make him a really good option for a bigger club here. Not a bigger club, but maybe a club in a bigger league here in about a year or two, because that is something that translates well when you're playing against a lot of low blocks in bigger leagues. Even in a league like the Premier League, you see the teams when Man City were at their absolute best, the players that they really, really were good at scoring goals from wide areas were good at interplay. Raheem Sterling, Louis Roy Sané, obviously David Silva when he would play on the wing, Bernardo Silva when he'd play on the wing. Those
Mahrez.
guys were good at coming inside and getting involved in those little interplays where you're playing those 1-2 touch passes around center backs and full backs and getting around the corner. Obviously, he's lightning quick too. And so I like not only do I think that he's, the better of the two, I'm actually like really, really, really interested in what his career is going to be. And if he was available this summer for anything under 50 million, I would want my club to be in that
Well,
talk.
I mean, PSG bought him for 40, so I don't think it'd even be possible.
That's why I mean, like I'm saying, like
Yeah.
if he was just a player that was
Yeah.
available for 50 million or under, I would want Arsenal to pay that 50 million in order to secure his services, because I think he's a really, really good player.
Fair. Yeah, and you saw a lot of that yesterday, actually, in the San Etienne game that they ended up thrashing him 6-1. He actually started in the midfield for PSG, kind of as like that, that the most advanced of that midfield three that PSG kind of gets away with in the league, where it's obviously not nearly as competitive for them. Still unbeaten in Ligue 1, by the way. Set the record, actually, in that game for longest away unbeaten streak in Europe's top 5 leagues. So tied an AC Milan record from a little whiles back. So I think I agree with you with Douay, but for some reason I watched Kenan Yildiz and I'm like,
Well, it's
this
because
Juve-
Juve's your favorite club. That's why you don't have to hide it. We all know what the reasoning is.
Well, you know what it is all my Premier League teams ended up getting ran out of town, Spurs, Chelsea, and then United, and that kind of evolution I went through. So then I was like, you know what, I got to go on the continent to find my second team.
You got a second team in every league, though. I mean, you're the biggest Juve fan there is. You like have the biggest sympathies for Dortmund for some reason. Like every time they're shitty,
Nah.
you got a little bit of
Sympathize, yes, but you will never see me rooting for them in a game. Never, ever.
this
So-
dude loves Spurs. He loves he thinks PSG is like the biggest club. It's like I'm actually in on PSG at all time.
Hey, I said in the beginning of the year they were going to be really good, so that's all
You
I'm
were
saying.
definitely right about that, so I can't hold you on that. Like I'm not saying that you're out here batting zero, but it's just funny. Like the projects that you like to partake in are just funny.
Yeah, yeah. Although I will say I'm going to be a huge Dortmund fan over the next couple of weeks as they play Barcelona in the Champions League. So I will be rooting for Dortmund there. All right, last question in the quick hitters that have lasted 30 minutes, and then we'll get into the main topic. LeBron on Pat McAfee. Now, he said a whole bunch of stuff. The Brian Windhorst thing I thought was just stupid and just really weird. Like, that was just a bad play by LeBron. And
Hmm.
look, he's had plenty of those. He's been in the spotlight for, like, at this point, like borderline 25 years. So he's going to obviously have some misses. The thing that I thought was most interesting was when he said that Giannis would score 250 points a game in the 70s, which is obviously kin to JJ Redick, his head coach, saying that Bob Cousy played against plumbers. Uh, so I'm glad to see they're still aligned on that one. But the thing that was interesting most to me is this is like example number 4 of LeBron trying to like semi recruit Giannis, or say something super complimentary. No, I'm serious. Stick with me. Stick with me. Drafted him first in the All Star game multiple
Hmm.
times and legitimately like kind of confirmed, like, yeah, I wanted him to know how special he was.
Hmm.
Like, okay, all right. Called him one of the kings of the league multiple times. Like, and this was around the time right before they traded for Damian Lillard. And now is saying stuff like this. So my thing is, like, I think LeBron, because they got Luca just recently, LeBron's like, yeah, Reeves, Rui, couple of picks, connect. Shoot, we'll even throw in Bronny if we need to for a sweetener. And we'll get Giannis, and then it'll be me, Giannis, and Luca, and we'll win some rings as I ride off into the sunset. Do you think LeBron thinks that? Or do you think LeBron was just trying to say something funny?
Well, LeBron doesn't say fun stuff. I think we have enough cachet
Yep.
built up where it's like LeBron doesn't just say, especially going out of his way to like go on a radio interview, and then of all the
Hmm.
players in the league he could have picked that would have
Yeah.
scored 250, including himself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
literally the guy
exactly.
that was considered his biggest rival for the longest time is legitimately considered probably the best scorer of this generation, if not ever. If you're just talking about pure scorers, Kevin
Yep.
Durant.
Hmm.
So,
It's a good point. It's a
and
good
it's
point.
not like he's just picking the biggest dude because he could say like, oh, Embiid or Jokic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it seems very calculated, especially when you bring up the things that you say, like how he's sort of loved Giannis in the past. I don't think though what he gets out of it because Giannis has been sort of in this weird limbo for like really ever since he won the title of like, oh, is he going to stay? Is
Hmm.
he going to go? Is he going to demand a trade? Is he going to
Yep.
resign? I mean, that's I don't think people remember that summer that he was up for free agency. There was like real Giannis is about to leave, like Kawhi after he won the title in Toronto, like energy of like, yeah, where's Giannis going? Type of
Talking about
thought.
right the summer before he became a free agent, when he
Correct.
right
Like
before they
that
traded
last
for Dame.
year.
Yeah.
That
Yep. Yep.
last
Yep.
year, it was like legitimate. Like, where's he going to
Well,
sign next year? Is he going to play with LeBron? Is like there was real that stuff going
you're
on.
right. 100%.
But if you're LeBron, I don't know how you construct that team
Yeah.
unless he's up next year, right? Next summer,
Who, LeBron?
yeah, or is it
There's
this
a
summer?
no. He cannot. He has to opt out after this season.
So unless this dude's going to completely sell himself, which I don't really know if you consider it selling himself, but unless he's really going to sell out for like Giannis and Luca and be like, you know what, I'm playing for the vet men, which
Well,
for some
he
reason he has never really shown the ability to do, even though he has money. It's weird, but um, unless he wants to really sell out and be like, look, I'm going to sign for less, we can get Giannis. But even after that, what does that even do for his legacy? Because I mean, LeBron is very aware of what his legacy thing is. Like, does he really get as much of a bump winning a fifth or even sixth ring with Giannis and Luca? Especially with, I mean, by the if he were to get both of those, he would be 42. Like, there's no way he's going to be
Yeah.
Finals MVP, even if he is, for a series the best player or something like that. I don't think there's any way that he could outplay Luka and Giannis and whoever the hell they're playing against in a 7-game series at 42. I know it's LeBron, but like, come on. What does that actually do for him other than him just being able to look up and be like, yeah, I have the same amount as Jordan, or I have one less than Jordan, I have the same amount as Kobe? Like, does that really affect it as much?
I would actually say yes, and this is the thing I think you could be sleeping on. Let's say, and again, this is fantasy land 100%. But like, let's say they ended up a world Luka, Giannis, and LeBron are all on the Lakers. And like, obviously in that case, we know for a fact LeBron's the third best player of those three.
Mm-hmm.
But like, as far as initiator, like weirdly is obvious, not even weirdly, but LeBron is definitely more of an initiator than Giannis, I would say. So there's still a good chance he could maybe get get more touches slash opportunities, or at least as many as Giannis. Because I think of those three guys, Luka is the best offensive player. Luka would 100% get the most. Like, he would be the point guard essentially of that team, of that group. And then, like, let's say they have this weird series or they end up getting to the finals. And like you said, LeBron, maybe he could do it for a series, but what if that series is the finals and all of a sudden, in like the last couple of games, he can kind of take over. He has some good closing minutes, and like you said, maybe Giannis is missing free throws or Luka's tired again, or not.
The only thing I could really see him being to where it's like he could win Finals MVP and really cement a cool legacy would be if he just became literally like the greatest role player of all time, where he was like wing creator. Like, he's a second recipient still, but he's still getting like 8, 9, 10 assists a game just from like backdoor cuts and, lobs. And he's just catching the ball like at the 3-point elbow sort of area and just like dribble, cross court pass for a three, or, I can still get around my guy a little bit, throw up a lob for Giannis. And he's averaging something like 17, 10, and 10 and playing like amazing defense. Like, playing like Giannis is the rim protector, and he's like the second. He's like basically on offense, he's like a spot up shooter slash creator. Like, he's basically like Steve Nash on offense, and then on defense,
I'm thinking maybe better Iggy in Golden State, like a much better version.
Yeah, he's like that on offense. Then on defense, he's playing like lockdown on whoever hit, like man-to-man lockdown, because Giannis is like the paint guy, like the center, I guess. He's just playing man-to-man lockdown on like their best wing guy every
he hits
night.
Him with one of these in game 6.
Yeah, and it's like
hits him with the Kobe jersey bite.
And then they like zoom in on like whoever he's guarding in the final, like Jason Tatum, and then they throw up the graphic of like Jason Tatum is 5 for 17 tonight with only 15 points. LeBron's been doing a great job on him, and it's like, and then he like does like a tip block on a 3-point attempt for like the last play of the game. Like, that's the only way I could see that going like really, really positively for him. Then again, not really outside the realm of possibility for LeBron, even in year 23.
Yep. So I'm glad. I just wanted to play a little LeBron fantasy land for a second. So I hope it happens. Because I do think, like, look, Bucks, I mean, Dame, obviously the blood clot issue. I can't imagine him being back again this season. So all of a sudden, if the Bucks lose in round 1, I mean, look, is Giannis a lock to stay? I don't know. I think we would definitely be facing another summer like the one you talked about before they ended up getting Dame, where it was like, hey, where's Giannis going? Because it's somewhere. So, okay, that was all I had for you in the kind of quick warm up topic. You ready to get to the main course, E?
Really quickly though, Giannis has a huge extension still on. He's locked down for 3 more years after that. So that's the reason why I really wanted to harp on LeBron having to take less money, because by the time this fake trade would be happening, he would be 54, then 58, then 63. So those are not small numbers. And then Luka, when is Luka up?
He can sign a supermax this summer with the Lakers, but I don't know when his actual contract is expiring.
Yeah,
I
his
think
actual
maybe.
contract, he has 2 more years after this year. So, I mean, I don't care what how high up the salary cap goes, unless you just want literally like the 12 worst players in the entire league as your other 12 guys, then someone's going to have to give a little bit somewhere. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring that up a little bit.
Fair enough. Fair
But
enough. Good
moving on to
interjection.
our main topic, I say 35 minutes into the episode. Our main topic for today was me and Chad were kind of thinking like, man, a lot of people, not really saying like, what are we even watching? What are we even watching for anymore? We already know who's going to win the Premier League. We already know who's going down. We already more or less know, who most of the Champions League spots are going to. Like, we see obviously who's winning Ligue 1. We see who's winning the Bundesliga. We see these other things. We see who's not winning La Liga. And
Atleti.
and so, what are we even watching for anymore? So, me and Chad wanted to come up with a couple of topics. Are yours Premier League or are yours on the continent?
No, I'm Prem.
Perfect.
I went against my natural instinct to win
Perfect.
Prem today.
So I
Yeah.
have this title that I, workshopped a lot and, I did a lot of red teaming with. Things that will make
Uh,
the Premier League interesting for 2 more months. That's what I'm calling it. So
I'm liking that. That gets the
I
stamp of approval from me.
I have three
Mm,
things. How many do you have?
okay. I got two. I got two.
Perfect. So we'll alternate.
And
I'll go
really,
first.
just one that I need to really have some time on, or that I really want
Perfect.
to spend some time on.
So here's my first one, and this probably will be a little bit quicker. Every
Mm,
year, this is my favorite part of the year.
I already know what it is.
When everyone knows who's going down. Sorry, this isn't
Yep.
my favorite, but it's one of my favorite parts of the year. Is when everyone knows who's going down, and then all these teams and players that are going down kind of look around. They're like, you know, if I score 5 goals in these last 2 months,
Yep. I can get a move.
I'm getting a move.
I can stay in this league.
So I'm calling this section the relegation tryouts. Okay? It's like you kind of look around, you're like, if I ball out for these last 8 games, someone's going to
hmm
give me a call. West Ham's going to give me a call. Palace is going to give me a
West
call.
Ham for sure.
Um,
Everton.
Everton's going to give me a call. Wolves, if I'm Portuguese, Wolves might give me a call. Brentford might even give me a call if they're, feeling a little
No,
desperate. So here
exactly.
are my relegation tryout candidates. I have a couple for each team, and you tell me. You don't have to give me like a number. Do you
Would
think
it
like this is a good person that might get a move, or do you think that it's just like, nah, this dude's not going to get that move. He'll probably just be in the championship.
would it be more fun if I like maybe give a team or two that maybe I could see, okay, if he has a good run, this is
Love
who he's
that.
going.
Even
Okay.
better. So
Okay.
for Ipswich, I have 3 players, and
Mm.
one of them is not even owned by Ipswich. So the obvious one, Liam Delap. Then I
Yeah.
have Omari Hutchinson and Julio
Yeah.
Enciso. So, do you think all 3 of those, or one or two of those? Which ones do you think are definitely like in this? And the reason I'm putting Julio Enciso in there, even though he's still owned by Brighton,
Right.
is just because he didn't seem to be a part of the plans at the
hmm
beginning of the season, which is obviously why he went out on loan.
Yep.
And then I don't think that they are then going to be like, you know what, you just needed a couple of months down in Ipswich to change our minds on you as a player. So I feel like he's kind of playing for a move as well.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on the Enciso one quick. I think the only chance where it's a way back for him, and I don't mean like only chance for a way back in like a Jaden Sancho type of way. I just think they have a lot of good attackers. But I think would be like if they ended up selling a João Pedro and then maybe ended up losing, another attacker. Because I think, the funny thing about Brighton is, and Enciso was kind of brought in as a winger type, but I think his
Hmm.
best moments for Brighton were when he was kind of playing as a number 10
Yep.
behind Welbeck most of the time. So I think if maybe you lose João Pedro, who's kind of like that starting dynamic number 10 right now, and then maybe I know they just brought in Ruter as well, who's like the other guy competing for that spot, but. Then they lose like maybe a Matoma or something, and then you have to shift guys around to fill space.
Right.
Then I could see Enciso maybe coming back into the fold, but no, I like that as a guy to watch out for a move. He's has enough individual ability that I think a team who comes up would be like if Leeds come up, I could easily see them being like, huh, and CISO, we could take him, because they kind of play that 4-2-3-1 as well, where they could be like, man, we could play him as a 10 or off the wing. So
Yeah, he's actually
I can
like a
see that.
really impressive player in half spaces, like a guy that starts centrally, drifts into
Hmm.
those spaces between midfielders, gets it on the half turn, is able to create, or he has a wicked shot
Yeah,
on him too. So I
yeah, he
like him as
does.
that kind of a player where he can play in transition a little bit. He's not playing against low blocks, and he can kind of find
Hmm.
those spaces and create or score from those areas.
Hmm.
So what about
Delap,
Hutchinson and
Delap, I
Delap?
think Delap, I think is most like is would be more likely of the two to get a move,
He's
just
like
because
the
I think
poster child for this section basically is
right,
a guy like a
exactly.
Liam Delap.
His physical profile, I think, will make people convinced that he's ready to be a out and out nine for like a upwardly mobile team, or I don't know why I just pronounced mobile that way. I hate that pronunciation. Upwardly mobile team, or like even a rotation option for like a top team. I could definitely see a team talking themselves into him this summer. Most likely candidate, I mean, Chelsea. Chelsea will be like the most likely for every striker, but I also think I wouldn't mind like a Tottenham move for him as like a rotation option for Solanke, because while Solanke's had a good first year, he's actually sneakily 27 or 28.
Hmm.
Um, so
I like him a
I
little
wouldn't be
maybe
mad at
step
that.
lower. Like I would love him in that Fulham team. Like I know Raul Jimenez
Oh yeah,
has been a little bit better this
he's
year,
been
but he's definitely not back to where his best was
yeah,
like at
and
Wolves.
plus he's going to be injured. He's going to be injured a whole lot.
Correct. So I think a Fulham or maybe even like a Brentford if Embuemo was to finally get that move. I think Liam
Mhm.
Delap and a guy like Wissa would play off each other, sort of big guy, little guy type of vibes. And then
Mhm.
also Liam Delap is mobile, so it's not like he's just going to be a pure
Right?
target, but he is big
Yeah.
and strong, still mobile, so he could play in that sort of counter-attacking side. They cross the ball a shit ton, Brentford do, so he'd be
Hmm.
able to get on those and
And yeah,
Brentford have quietly scored 50 goals this year, which is like fifth in the league or sixth in the league, which for a team that's
unbelievable.
like Brentford have,
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then Hutchinson, I just think they're keeping just because
Hmm.
he's like a player to me where if he went to the championship and then just like kind of dominated it, his value would actually increase. And
In a
if
weird
like
way.
then it, yeah, exactly. Like if then Ipswich came back up after a year, and even if they didn't, but he was like, one of the best players in the championship, then like you could see him getting a move where they at least get more money than what they paid for him. So I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, club record signing, like you
Yep.
said, not really probably
Yep.
someone they're looking to offload just yet.
Yep.
Um, Leicester was a lot harder to find some guys. I mean, part of the reason why they're going down, of course, is because their squad is so horrible. But I mean, I was like really struggling, and that's when I got to Bunanote again. Not someone that's or someone another Brighton product.
Yep.
Um, and you're just kind of like
Yeah, I mean they're
maybe playing for a move because also again you can kind of see that like since he's out on loan, you can maybe make the argument like, oh yeah, like he's not quite in their plans. I thought he was pretty good for him last year, but again, he's kind of in that
I
same
did
boat as
too. I did
Enciso,
too.
where he's like maybe, and he's actually played pretty well. This is actually the most goals he's scored in a league campaign or overall campaign. He's still very young, so it's not like he's
Yeah.
had a ton of
Yeah.
sample size, but he's been pretty good for them. Seems maybe a bit slight though for the league and for his playing style because he's kind of plays a little bit more going into players and going into tight spaces, which doesn't really work as
Hmm.
well. I feel like if you played him in a La Liga or a Ligue 1, I think he'd be very like perfect for those leagues. Really good technical player, quick, could win those sort of softer fouls that get given in leagues like those. And I would really like him to get a move abroad. So that's kind of why I put him in that camp. And then Mads Hermansen is just getting peppered with shots, and he kind of screams, that goalkeeper that goes down, and then it's like
Yeah.
whoever, maybe not Leeds because I know
Um,
they have a pretty good goalkeeping situation, but maybe like a Sheffield is like, hey man, this Mads Hermansen dude just got fucking rifled with shots for the past 9 months, so he knows how it is in the Premier League. We'll just take him for, I don't know, 10 million just because.
I'll give you a sleeper team actually for Hermanson would be West Ham. I actually think West Ham could maybe do.
You don't
for a
like
new
the Areola 40-year-old Fabianski.
Fabianski combination.
Yeah.
Nope, don't like it one bit. Don't like it one bit. But yeah, I'm glad you said Hermanson because I've actually been impressed with him this season. But as you said, it's kind of like that weird thing where is it actually easier to be a keeper who knows he's going to face a bunch of shots in a game?
Yeah.
We would, I think, agree. Yes.
And then with Southampton, I was like, well, I guess not Tyler Dibbling since they have, I guess, £100 million valuation on him, and even Premier League teams aren't stupid enough to pay that.
No.
Maybe Joe Aribo. I think he's already proven that he kind of can't do it at that level. But maybe, I guess, he's one of their more talented players, I guess. And that's where I kind of landed on like a Harwood Bellis. He doesn't fit the mold of like Everton center back. Me and you were joking on the phone yesterday that, they just said, screw it, we'll just play like 2-6-6 center backs and we'll just head the shit out of everything away. So maybe not that kind of a club, but maybe like a West Ham who they've had some center back woes recently.
No kidding.
Maybe like a Palace or Brentford, since he's a little bit more mobile. He's a little bit smaller, a little bit more mobile. Maybe a Brentford side could take a look at him. So those are the only guys that I kind of guess scrape the bottom of the barrel and say might be able to be playing for a move from Southampton.
Yeah, Harwood Bellis, I think would go to a team like you said that kind of is like a mid-table team, but like thinks they're playing like a top team, like wants to be that possession.
And he came through at City, so he's got enough technical ability.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
exactly.
Maybe if he put some actual Premier League footballers around him, he might be decent.
I could see him at Palace as like, and obviously he's not going to be a direct replacement for this guy, but like as a Guéhi, like if Guéhi leaves, like just an alternative to kind of help beef up the back line for them. So,
yeah, him and Chris Richards though, that's a pretty small center back pairing, especially in the league. I mean, now that you have they played the three.
I don't know what you got. I got Harwood Bellis at 6'2". Like he's not small per se.
No, I don't mean small. I mean like small. Like he seems to just get knocked around a little bit when I watch him play.
Very lightly.
Chris Richards is, he's pretty skinny as well. He's not like a big, huge dude either. But I guess if you're playing in that three with like a Maxence Lacroix, who's a little bit bigger, more physically imposing, then maybe that could work with those three back there. And I do like that shout of sort of him. The only thing that obviously stops that move from happening is the obvious reason that Palace wouldn't make that move.
Damn. That's a good reason.
They have punted on white defenders, period. So I just
you know what?
They've just
I didn't know where you were going with that. Yeah, ever since they sold Anderson, they were like, all right, new club policy.
They even looked. I heard they had like a 3-hour meeting when they were looking to sign Munoz, and they were like,
"Is he?
I mean, he's not like European.
He's definitely not.
So
we're good. We're good.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the It's almost like the Bilbao bit of the Premier League.
Exactly.
In reverse.
Just black defense. I mean, they'll have one white guy in the midfield, and they'll have a white guy in goal. But other than that, they're just like, nah, I'm completely out on white guys anywhere else. Even Kamada, I heard they had like a 2-hour meeting on, and they were like, "Screw it, he's not European either. We'll let him play." If they put out a Will Hughes, Adam Wharton midfield one more time this season, then I'll be worried that something's happening at the club. So, what was your first storyline that you wanted to sort of talk about that's going to keep us interested for this last part of the season?
This is a perfect actually segue to it. Enjoying the last 2 months of Crystal Palace under Glasner, because I think these are going to be his last 2 months there most likely. He's just been too good for the most part. I talked to you about it, but the Premier League table since November 1st, Liverpool first, 48 points. Arsenal hanging on to second, 40 points. Forest third, 38 points. Newcastle fourth on 35 points. And Crystal Palace in fifth on 33 points. Very impressive. This is obviously coming off the back of this takes away those first 8 games where they were absolutely atrocious, 5 losses, 3 draws,
Mhm.
-6 goal differential, and it was, man, is Glasner even good? Like, was
I was
it
about to
just a
say, it
good
should
run
be
that
said,
they
it's not like
had?
he got appointed in November. He was their manager the entire
Yeah,
season,
yeah,
so
yeah,
that
exactly.
part can't be forgotten.
Exactly. That's the part where it's like a little tough, but like I said, since November they've been flying. They're obviously now through to the semifinal of the FA Cup as well.
Emphatically.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like beat the shit out of Fulham. Like, and those
Away,
are two,
yeah.
and those are two teams where like you would think they're like kind of direct rivals in the sense of they're kind of competing for that
Same
same area.
space, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that, and the thing is that's been weird about it is they've actually done it with mostly the same group, the
Hmm.
same group of guys that kind of played in those first 8, 9 games, have kind of still continued to play. And even, Trevor Chalobah, who was like a key center back for them, obviously he went back to Chelsea in January with their injury woes. So, what do you think? Like, how do you feel about Palace? How do you feel about Glasner? What they've been able to accomplish over the last 4 or 5 months or so?
Um, I've really enjoyed it, and obviously, I don't know what Glasner's thing with Mateta is, but I'm
Hmm.
so glad that they have it.
Could you? I'm glad you brought it up. Not to cut you off. I'll let you get back. But do you think Delap could be a possible Mateta replacement?
No,
You
because of
know,
the
if
reason I just talked about.
well,
No, but yes, definitely stylistically, um,
yeah,
similar. Now he's not like as bulky, but it's sort of that same
right.
profile where it's like physical monster. Like he's strong, he's good in the air, but he's also mobile and he hits the shit out of the ball too. He's a pretty decent finisher, Liam Delap. Um,
Yeah.
so I can definitely see that stylistically being the replacement between the two clubs if they could work that out. But the only thing is, I don't really think that there's a Mateta home unless it's like you said. The only type of club I could see going for him is like a Spurs, and he would just be like another Solanke, basically, where it's like he's not young. He was a good goal scorer for a mid-table club. And so now, how is that going to change?
Yeah.
And they're honestly similar profiles, big guys that are physical, that can kind of score all
And the
kinds of
run.
like all types of goals,
Hmm.
and they're never going to hit like 20, but they're also like basically like a guaranteed 10 if they're fit. So I don't really know
Right.
what that gets you. I don't know what kind of upward mobility. I mean, for them, I guess it'd have to be like a foreign move if you're looking for
Hmm.
something out like maybe like a
Shit,
retool of
Juve will pay
Dortmund.
for it. Mm. Yeah, although they have Garassi,
That's
so
what I
I feel
mean. So
like
it's like they'd be that kind of club, but I don't even know like who. Like again, they have Sorloth. Like I was gonna say Atleti, but it's like they got Sorloth. So I don't even
yeah,
know what like this. It would have to be a step up, but I don't know.
AC Milan would do it. AC Milan would do it.
Well, they already have the
But
best big mobile forward in the world on their books. So
do they?
Morata.
Shit. Sorry, but yeah, like taking it back to Palace, like you talked about the Wharton Hughes midfield. Like the crazy thing is they've had to deal with some injuries. Like between
Hmm.
like would we agree everyone fit, whole team available, their best midfield two would be Wharton and Decore.
Yeah, and they've
Those
both
two
been
guys,
unfit. Yeah,
those two guys combined have made 14 starts in the Premier League.
yeah.
Combined 14th and 16th for the team in the team for league minutes. So, the fact that he's been able to, like you said, play that Will Hughes and like Jefferson Lerma midfield,
Hey, I'm a big
or even
Lerma
like
fan.
he's fine, but I mean like he's not. And look, I mean we understand we're talking about like it's not like we're saying Palace is contending for the damn title, but like they've been they've been like we said the fifth best team for like 4 months now.
Hmm.
So and the fact that they've been able to get it done with them, the center back, Shadi Riyadh was supposed to play a huge role for them this year. He played one game for them this year, started one game and then tore his ACL. So like they Glasner's been able to do it while also going through some adversity,
Hmm.
which I think is what makes him like promising for the next club that he goes
Yeah, like
to.
what kind
And
of
I
level
gotta
are you looking for him to get a move? Like what club is
well,
this?
I wrote down actually
RB
4 teams,
Leipzig?
and you might think 100% that's definitely one of them. I got Leipzig, Dortmund, because I know they just appointed Kovac, but to me
That
that doesn't
screams
make you not
stopgap.
look. Yeah, exactly. That doesn't mean you're not looking for a coach. Juve, who just appointed Tudor, but again, he falls in that same category for me. And then Spurs. Those would be like, and to me, I got to be honest. I think Spurs he would make more sense than Iriola, and I'm gonna give you the reason why. I think a lot of Spurs' team probably is actually built more to the system that Glasner wants. Wing backs, they naturally have those Udogi and Poro. Those guys definitely want to be wing backs more than full backs.
Right.
They have athletes in the midfield that can play in a double pivot. I don't know if they have guys with the
Ability.
not even ability, but I would say defensive solidity. They don't have guys with the defensive solidity. But then that front three, like I could see them doing, kind of like you said about how Solanke and Mateta are similar profile. Like I could see some of those Spurs guys, and granted, we've been saying this about Spurs for like 2 years, so who knows? But I could see those guys like running in off of like a Solanke, like whether it's Odebear or whether it's Brennan Johnson, who I think has been up and down, but I actually still like. Kulisevsky obviously is going to be playing pretty much every single minute, more in like what a Eze role is turned into, which I would really like for him. So
I don't know if they
there
have the
are
defenders for it, though, to be fair. I mean, it's like
no, they definitely have to. That would be the
they'd
thing.
have to
They'd
buy like
invest.
3 center backs.
Yeah, because what do they have? Romero.
It's like
Dancer,
Romero
like,
and Van de
yeah.
Ven are the only ones that are good enough to actually play. I mean, I guess technically they have Dragushin and shit. I guess the corpse of Ben Davies, I guess, is a center back now. So
Well, and then of course can't forget Archie Gray, who somehow is a center back, even though he's a DM slash right back.
I say, yeah, I'm kind of going into this hoping that Archie Gray becomes part of more of that midfield. And honestly, I mean Glasner, and he's been able to work with young midfielders and also weird midfielders again, like Will Hughes. I mean, he might be able to just be like, you know what, Archie Gray and Bergvall are our midfield too, and we're just going to roll
Yeah.
with that. And they're athletic, they're rangy with their ability, or like with their dribbling. At least we can coach them to be better and smarter passers. And honestly, what wingbacks do is they kind of give every center mid like a always
Outlet.
check down option. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I kind of have nothing. I'm just going to lay it to the wing back, and so it kind of makes
And
the game
especially
a little bit more simple
Okay.
for especially young center mids.
and especially with those two guys specifically, because the way Ange has played in his time, he's like to play with both of his fullbacks inverted, so they would be comfortable being an outlet, getting on the ball more.
Right.
I'm telling you, I think Glasner to Spurs makes a lot of sense. By the way, to touch on a point you mentioned, I'm really starting to like Bergvall a lot. Like in the beginning, I was like, is this dude just like a guy who's 18 and playing, so we have to call him good? But I'm really starting to like him a lot over the last like month or so.
He's a bit too wasteful in possession for my personal liking, but like you said, he
He
is
is.
very young, so I'm not gonna like kill him for it. But he's definitely he's not yet in my I think that guy's good yet.
Fair enough. But yeah, that was my first one that I had. Also, got a lot of really good games left. Due Palace. They got at City, at Newcastle, at Arsenal, home for Forest, at Spurs, at Liverpool, all in the last 10. So like 6 to 7 really good games. Where I think if they win like a couple, like they played Liverpool on the last game of the season, as stupid as it sounds, like oh they go out and beat Liverpool on the last day, and it's like Glasner's got momentum going into the summer and all this stuff. So I really think Glasner's kind of set for a move this summer.
So I'm glad you brought up the fixture list, because one of the my next sort of topic, or sort of reason to be excited, had a huge part to play in their fixture list. And now every season, this is basically the Brighton annual, or the Palace annual award of shooting up the table late. And me and you have joked about it in the past, where it's like you look at the table at the end of the year and it's like, that team finished 10th? Weren't they 16th like a month ago?
Yep.
And my
Yep.
candidate for that this year is actually your boys over at West Ham.
West Ham, the Irons.
At West Ham, because of mainly of their fixture list, and also, they have a little itty bitty bit of form going. They've only lost one of their last four, including beating Arsenal, which
Potter's making magic.
I was about to say Potter now kind of has a little bit of time under his belt. He's going to start building a little bit more. And this little late season mid table team where it's like because you kind of don't care about those places like 9 to 16, you kind of don't notice it happening. And then when you look at the table, you see it's like, oh shoot, that team jumped up 8 places in 2 months. And I think that their fixture list is really going to do them well. This is who they play. This is all their games for the rest of the year. Tell me which of these are unwinnable for them.
Yep.
Wolves, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Southampton, Brighton, Spurs, United, Forest, Ipswich. All of those games are imminently winnable. Now, I know you get into like the home versus away part of it, but like if you just look at those teams that they're playing, apart from really Liverpool, which at that point might be sort of foot off the gas because they're out of the Champions League and they've pretty much already wrapped up the title.
Yeah, season's over pretty much.
Exactly. So playing that schedule when you actually, I mean, when you have a new manager that you're kind of playing for your, and it's Liverpool away, so it's kind of like whatever, just take a piss on it. Who cares?
I was gonna say, but the point still stands. Out of 10 games, we're talking about one that's maybe not winnable for them.
Right.
Out of those 10,
and
so
it's
they could have a good run.
You're kind of also playing for your future at that club because Potter being appointed in the middle of the year. He hasn't had like a full window and a full way to like complete like summer window, and he hasn't had a full way to actually construct the team in his image. So that's definitely going to be something that they're looking to do this summer. And so now, if you're one of those players, again, it's kind of like the opposite of the relegation tryouts I was talking earlier. It's like, damn, I really want to keep playing in the Premier League, or I really want to keep playing in London, which seems to be a pretty big draw for West Ham as a club. And it's like, okay, we actually need to play well. So that's their thing to play for. People are like, why would they want to shoot up the title? Who cares? Or the table? Who cares? They're kind of playing for their Premier League lives. The individual players are. And that is, your boy Rashford just scored. And so I think that's kind of the motivation. Potter's really going to want some momentum going into next season. And the players are going to really want to be able to stick around or play for a move up rather than a move down. So I think that West Ham are really going to have that late season push where you're going to kind of look up at the end of the year and be like, West Ham are 10th? How did that happen?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I like that shout specifically because I think that then makes West Ham a suitor to do, because here's the thing, for them to actually improve their club, I think they need to find a stable goalkeeper, a more stable young goalkeeper.
Not just a goalkeeper.
Yeah, Mads like a stable one that's, well, exactly. They need to get at least one like real center back in, because right now whoever's playing opposite of Kilman is just killing them.
It really is. It really is the poo-poo platter. It's like they'll have Mavropanos, and then they'll have
Todibo, who's been a huge miss.
Todibo, and then they'll just like you'll turn on sometimes. It's like Cresswell playing center back, and it's just kind of like what is even happening with this other center back?
Alvarez will start the occasional game there, and so I think they really need that. And then I think they need to get kind of like the goalkeeper position. They have a lot of names in the number 9 spot, but I think they actually have to get a guy. And I think the thing is, if they do make that push, let's say crazy talk, they're in 15th right now. I think let's say they end up, like you said, 10th, 9th even. I don't know if that's even possible, but let's just say. Then all of a sudden does a dude like a Jonathan David say, well, shoot, it's not like I'm going to be a main starter at any of these super clubs.
Right.
West Ham actually pay decently when it comes to wages. Could I end up going there and being the 9 there? Then all of a sudden, when you look at the kind of 3 areas you need, one of them is filled with the free transfer.
Right.
I wouldn't be mad at that. So yeah, I think there could be a lot riding on it for West Ham, but I agree with you. I'm a Potter guy, so I might make West Ham my new team. Who knows?
Love that. So what's your last sort of storyline going into these last 2 months that's gonna keep you watching the league?
What is Manchester City's motivation going into this last 10? Now, this is a team that, let's be honest, most people are going to watch City. You know, they were going to watch City before hearing this podcast, so it's not like I'm changing opinion necessarily.
Right.
But what I think is, you know, first off, to bring up that table that I had talked to you about, Premier League table since November 1st, where you think City are?
10th? They're not 10th.
13th. 1 point behind
United? Yeah. I mean, that's tough.
So, I don't know. Might be back in.
I think that's a part of City season that kind of gets slept on is like, it literally happened all at once. Like, it wasn't like they were crap the whole season.
No.
It wasn't even they were crap the whole time Rodri got hurt. It was literally like
they were really good the first 2 months.
Yep. I mean, even when they played Arsenal in that infamous, game at the Etihad, like they were still like, these are the two teams that are going to be challenging for the title. So this is a title deciding game, and that was in like October, maybe late September, early October, and then it just like you said. Since like end of October into November, it's just been down, down, down. They picked up a little bit of form here recently, but not City type of form, like just top four type of form.
Yeah. Although I mean, you say they picked up form recently in the last 6, like just since February 1st, they're 15th in the Premier League. So that's in the last 6 games. West Ham, Everton, and Wolves all above them in the last 6. So that's the thing. Like I think I agree with you. Some of the form they've been picking up has been more so like I think they actually played well against Madrid in the Champions League, even though they lost. I think they actually played well they've obviously continued on in the FA Cup, so that probably can be a part of it as well. So I do somewhat agree with you. I feel like they've been playing better from when it felt like for a month, like no matter what they did, they were just going to lose or draw every single game.
Well, even like Marmoush picking up some form, which again is already pissing me off. So,
but yeah, so I'm like, what is the, because they're sitting in 5th place right now, and it's like, are they going to end up staying in that top 5 in that Champions League space? They've got some guys, bunch of older guys who are maybe departing. De Bruyne, I read on Transfer News Live Twitter page at least once a week that him to San Diego FC is being talked about every single week. So he's obviously gone, and we've been talking about him kind of seeming checked out for a good bit now, honestly. Gundogan is like
$1 million.
Not good and old. Which no one will ever agree with me, but even though Gundogan had like 15 goal involvements for Barca last year, he still was not good. Like that was the beginning of the end for him. Bernardo Silva has only been talked about for a move for 5 straight years. I think this is the year that it actually happens, even though he's weirdly 3rd for minutes in the squad.
Well, that'll be an interesting subplot of this summer because even as dominant as City have been, like even in the recent past, all of their good players have always seemed to be like 1 second away from making a move. Maybe the way things have gone this season will make them sort of actually look seriously at that. Like you said, those are 3 players that were huge parts of their title-winning teams. If they lose all 3 of them in one summer, even as aging players, it's hard to just like, kind of bring in that new crop of players and even just expect, the culture and the level to stay the same, as a... No, I won't talk about that. But anyway, yeah.
And then also Ederson, a guy who's been kind of teasing Saudi for like 2 years, it seems like. I feel like, kind of like you said, this could be the summer that kind of pushes it over the edge to like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and leave then. So,
right.
That's a lot of people we're talking about who, and look, I mean, they're still professional. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to go out and be like, oh, okay, whatever, who cares?
Right.
But like you said, there's a difference between going 100% or even just going like 90%. Like that's still a difference. You can tell. You were talking about, playing in games that matter earlier. Yeah, exactly. Like what a guy looks like when he's playing, like when he really cares versus when he's just out there to play well. So I that's just something to keep an eye on, especially with the teams they're competing with, like Newcastle, Brighton, Villa, Chelsea. All of those teams I think are way more desperate to be like, hey man, we got Champions League next year. Like
Yep.
we got something really good. You know, whether it's the amount of money they've spent or like, well, really, I mean, the amount of money they've spent with all those teams, or like the way the project is going. Like they want to be able to say we got Champions League football versus City. Like we know they're on the other end of whatever their project is.
I mean,
So.
even you look at guys like Stones and Grealish and
Yeah.
who else? I mean, like
I just haven't counted Stones as a player because he only plays once a month for like the past 3 years.
yeah, and so that's 5 guys now where it's like you think
Yeah.
Stones, you think Grealish, you think Kevin De Bruyne, you think Ilkay Gundogan, you think Bernardo Silva. It's like if all 5 of those guys leave, you look at the guys left over, and it's not like that's a title-winning side either. So it's either,
No.
even though, again, as we kind of joked about when it happened, like they spent a crap ton of money in the winter, and they still haven't plugged a lot of the holes that are left in their squad. And so if even more holes get opened up, you're looking at like a 10 signing summer. And I don't care who you are, if you're Pep, you know, you're still not going to be able to just overnight be able to install that new system along with maintaining your, you know, league winning culture without really the people that set that culture and maintained it for a long, long time. So that's why, you know, that TikTok that we posted, you know, maybe a month or so ago, when I said, you know, I'll say Chelsea might be more attractive than City right now as far as long-term project. I mean, again, that even what I just said assumes that Pep is there. So
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It just gets very, very awkward, and I don't really know what the next couple of years are going to look like for City, which means, of course, they're going to win the Premier League all 3 of those years, which hurts a little bit, but...
Well, of course they are because they're keeping Foden, so they've got what they need.
He's horrible. He's so horrible.
All right, E, why don't you go ahead and wrap up this segment? Give us your last one. Let us know the last thing you're looking forward to for this last 10 games that you'll be watching.
This is something that went so under the radar, I didn't even really notice it until I was doing research for this, but Bournemouth kind of needing the FA Cup for Europe.
100%.
They
100%.
are currently sitting in 10th, I believe.
Yeah.
They're sitting in 10th. Now, to be fair, they're only 3 points off of a European place in 7th with Brighton.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're a million miles away, but them being 10th now compared to when they were like 6th maybe a month ago. In their last 4 in the league, they only have a draw. That's the only point that they picked up.
Yeah.
So it's been very turbulent times in recent times for Iraola. And now he has this big City game today, and by the time this goes out, we already know that result, and probably this segment will be irrelevant. But even in the FA Cup, they picked up some form, obviously. But you look back and they lost to Brighton at home, drew Spurs away, lost to Brighton away, lost to Wolves at home, which I didn't even know was possible.
Yeah, that's criminal.
And it's like their last win is against Southampton in the league, so it's like does that even count? Like since they beat Forest 5-0, they have one win, and it's against a team who's like beyond bottom of the league in that Southampton team.
Like,
so they've been
one of the worst teams in the history of the division.
Correct. They have 9 points right now, which is incredible.
It's April.
Yeah, exactly. It's April. So them needing this FA Cup is kind of interesting. I mean, the teams that are still in the FA Cup, it looks like Villa. So it looks like it'll be Villa. And if Bournemouth stay in, it's going to be Villa, Bournemouth, Palace. And then, can't think of the 4th team because I'm an idiot. Who else played yesterday?
Palace, Forest. Wait, did you say Forest?
No, Forest. That's who it is.
Yeah, Forest. Forest beat Brighton on pens.
And so that would be an imminently winnable trophy for Bournemouth, regardless of who they draw. I mean, all those teams are sort of in the same quagmire where it's like sort of mid-table, some of them upper mid-table. I mean, Forest obviously is 3rd, but they're not sort of put into that group. Well, yeah. They're not sort of...
It's just Forest, the anomaly of what Forest is like...
I still don't understand it. So, yeah. But I think in a one-off game, Forest would kind of still be in that same class of teams of those other guys that are still in the competition. So, Bournemouth now, even though, like, again, my favorite way to be a fan, at least, is like look at what they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year compared to what they are
Yeah,
now. Even if Bournemouth ended up finishing ninth or 10th, that'd still be a good season compared to what the expectations were. However,
100%.
since the year has gone on, their fans have gotten sort of wrapped up in the idea, and I'm sure the club have gotten excited about the idea of actually participating in Europe next year. So, with that
Hmm.
expectation, it really looks like the FA Cup is the way to do it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and rattle off, pretend like I know what Iraola's cup um, experience is
History.
like, what his cup, sort of prestige is. But if he really wants to be a part of that, really top class of managers, like people are trying to put him in, I think that winning an FA Cup would really help to cement him into that because obviously he's never been in a situation where he's like challenged for the league or done other stuff like that. So punching above his weight in the league is nice, but getting that sort of something at the end of it, whether it be a trophy or a European place or both, I think is something that's going to be really, really exciting for Bournemouth and might be able to, do something like, keep Dean Houston for an extra year or, maintain that attack that they've been so prevalent with and been so dangerous with, or maybe even recruit new talent, taking steps up rather than just trying to do damage control when they're losing pieces, which clubs like Bournemouth normally have to deal with.
Mm. No, I'm with that. I like you said, their recent slide is like, because they get all the great press, and obviously they've outperformed what they were supposed to be this season. Like, I think even I'm looking at the table now, like their absolute basement, if it went to shit, is 12th. Like
Right.
12th would be the absolute lowest they could finish, I think, without something absolutely crazy happening. And even that, their fan base would be like, yeah, like we're good with that, no doubt about it.
Right.
But now, like you said, you got the hint of midweek football, and I do think they'll actually end up finishing maybe above, definitely above Fulham because I think Fulham are kind of in that same group as far as fading, and maybe even like they could still have a chance of getting like a conference league spot, but again, we're talking about real European football, not the conference league. So yeah, that
That's
FA
what Chelsea fans
and
told
look,
me.
they're the biggest team standing in their way. Honestly, is the team they're about to play here as we're recording.
Hmm.
So by the time this post, like you said, we'll know either you'll look like an idiot or you'll be a genius. So
I'll
it's a
probably
good
look like
50
an
50
idiot
bet.
regardless, so it doesn't really matter. Um,
Nah, I tried. I tried to help you out.
yeah, so that was our episode for this week. Really excited to get back into it. Really excited to finally
Yeah.
see some Premier League football again. I don't remember if it's tomorrow or
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, but finally excited to see that again.
I think it's Tuesday. Yeah.
Uh, going to London next week, actually. So
Yeah, he is.
I don't know what that's going to look like as far as podcasts. So
Yeah.
we'll have to work that out when it comes. But just really really excited to be around it. Maybe catch some stuff firsthand and kind of see what the whole environment's like, the pub scene, the street scene. Talk to people in my
Uh,
American accent and they assume I don't know shit. That'll be fun. Um,
we need to get you and Tig to do an interview together.
I want Robbie actually. I want Robbie to interview me.
Is that the
You know what I
big
really need?
big
You know what I
dude?
really need? I need to talk. I need to find Stunt Peg, and I need to tell her about this American left back prospect that she hasn't heard of yet. Be like, yeah, well, actually, this kid's going to be the next guy, and whether he is or not
Caleb
doesn't
Wiley.
matter. I just have ball knowledge because I'm not talking about the three best players in the world at their position.
Yeah, exactly. Tell Labotka is gonna up for the Ballon d'Or, and you'll got it.
Exactly. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode here today. And again, going to London. So I guess we'll see when episode 32 comes out, but hopefully sooner rather than later. See you guys.